What I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a warning, one that's been hidden for 7 generations. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why certain powers want this knowledge buried forever. Before we continue this story, I ask you one question. Have you ever wondered what happens after justice is served? Does the story truly end, or is it merely the beginning of something far more profound? Today, I reveal what happened after Amora saved Kofi from certain death, a revelation that will leave you speechless. Stay with me until the very end, for this story holds secrets that might change how you view the world forever. 3 seasons had passed since Kofi's name was cleared. The rainy season had come and gone, washing away old wounds but leaving scars still visible beneath the surface. In the village, whispers followed Amora and Kofi wherever they walked, some of admiration, others of suspicion. For what happens when a healer falls in love with the one she saved? Does her oath remain pure? The truth of Barbatoon's crimes had sent shockwaves through 7 villages. The powerful healer had been imprisoned, but his followers remained scattered like poisonous seeds across the land. Their loyalty to their fallen leader bordered on fanatical devotion. Amora had returned to her nursing duties at the hospital, though something had changed within her. That night when she had chosen to hear Kofi's truth had awakened something ancient in her bloodline, a gift of discernment that allowed her to see beyond physical symptoms into the emotional wounds of her patients. The hospital director noticed this change immediately. "Nurse Okafor," he told her one day, his voice filled with awe, "I've never seen recovery rates like this before. Whatever you're doing with these patients, it's remarkable." His eyes scanned the records again, disbelief evident in his expression. But with this gift came a heavy price. Each night, Amora would return home exhausted, carrying the weight of others' pain. And each night, Kofi would be waiting, a cup of herbal tea in hand, prepared exactly as his mother had once taught him. Their love had grown not from passion, but from mutual respect forged in the flames of injustice. They had not rushed to marriage as the village expected. Instead, they built something more profound, a partnership of equals. One evening, as the sun painted the horizon with fierce oranges and reds, an elderly woman appeared at their doorstep. Her face was hidden beneath a tattered shawl, her hands trembling as she knocked. Amora opened the door, her voice carrying the caution of one who has learned that danger can wear many faces. "Who seeks healing at this hour?" she asked. The elderly woman's reply sent a chill through the air. "One who brings warning, not seeking remedy," she answered, her voice barely above a whisper. Kofi recognized the voice immediately. It was Nana Ekua, the old healer who had finally testified against Barbatoon, saving Kofi's life. Her eyes now darted nervously beyond the threshold as she asked to enter, saying what she must share should not be carried by the wind. Once inside, the old woman revealed news that chilled their blood. Barbatoon had escaped imprisonment. 3 guards were found dead that morning, their bodies marked with symbols only his inner circle would recognize. But this was not why she had come. Her voice dropped even lower as she spoke words that would change everything. "Before his capture, Barbatoon spoke of you both. He said, the nurse and the accused are more dangerous together than apart. They must never bear a child." Silence filled the room like smoke. Amora's hand instinctively moved to her belly, where a secret had been growing for 2 moons now. A secret she had not yet shared even with Kofi. Nana Ekua's eyes widened, her wrinkled hand reaching out to touch Amora's wrist. The question in her eyes turned to certainty. "You carry a child?" she gasped. "Then it has already begun." The fear in Kofi's voice was unmistakable as he demanded to know what had begun, begging the elder to speak plainly. The old woman sank deeper into her seat, suddenly looking decades older than when she had arrived. There was something they both needed to know about their bloodlines, she explained. Something that explained why Barbatoon had targeted Kofi's mother, and why he feared their union. Thunder rumbled in the distance as if punctuating her next words. Every 10 generations, she revealed, 2 healing lineages, one from the river people, one from the mountain folk, were destined to unite. Their child was prophesied to possess healing powers that could render men like Barbatoon obsolete. Powers that connected directly to the ancestral wisdom without need for intermediaries who might corrupt the knowledge for personal gain. Kofi looked at Amora with new understanding. The way patients responded to her touch. How plants seemed to grow more vibrant in her presence. It wasn't just compassion, it was her heritage awakening. "My mother was mapping healing bloodlines," he realized aloud. The records she kept, She must have discovered the connection between our families. Amora's voice trembled with the weight of revelation. And that's why Babatune killed her. Not because of a complaint about illegal herbs. But because she discovered you two were destined to meet. Nana Ekua confirmed. That your child would threaten his power. As wind whistled through the window, the old woman's warning was clear. They were not safe here. Neither of them. And certainly not the child. That night, as Amora finally revealed her pregnancy to Kofi, their joy was tempered by the shadow of Babatune's escape. They would need to leave, but where could they go that his influence wouldn't reach? The answer came from an unexpected source. The next morning, the hospital director called Amora into his office. His face was grave as he slid a letter across the desk. The capital city had heard of her extraordinary work, he explained. They were offering her a position at the National Medical Institute. Lowering his voice, he admitted he knew about Babatune's escape. This might be the protection they needed. Amora studied the man's face. Was this genuine concern or something more sinister? The capital was 5 days' journey away, far from Babatune's strongest influence, but also far from the protection of those who knew her story. That evening, as Amora and Kofi discussed their options, a small stone wrapped in leaves was thrown through their window. On it was carved a single symbol, one Kofi recognized from his mother's research. "It's a summoning," he whispered, eyes wide with recognition. "To the sacred grove where healers have gathered in secret for centuries." Against all caution, they decided to answer the call. Under the cover of darkness, they followed the hidden path to the grove, a place ordinary villagers avoided due to ancient taboos. There, in a clearing illuminated by nothing but starlight, stood 7 figures in ceremonial robes. The eldest stepped forward, removing her hood to reveal a face marked with the traditional scarification of the highest healing order. "We have waited many years for this moment," the elder healer announced, her voice carrying through the night like a warm breeze. "The child you carry, Amora Okafor, is the culmination of a promise made 10 generations ago." Amora's hand moved protectively to her belly. "How do you know about my child?" she demanded, voice steady despite her fear. The elder healer's response was both comforting and unsettling. "The same way we knew you would risk everything to save an innocent man accused of an unthinkable crime. The same way we knew your heart would recognize his truth when no one else would listen." She approached closer, her eyes reflecting starlight. "Babatune was once one of us. Before ambition corrupted his gift. He knows of the prophecy and will stop at nothing to prevent its fulfillment." The elder revealed a plan. A network of true healers existed across the continent, connected by ancient oaths and hidden symbols. They would help Amora and Kofi disappear, establish new identities far from Babatune's reach, until the child was born and could be protected. But there was a price for this protection. The child must be trained in the old ways, away from modern influences, away from hospitals and their limited understanding of true healing. Amora's response was immediate and defiant. "I will not abandon my medical training," she declared. "There is wisdom in both worlds." Kofi stood firm beside her. "And I will not separate my child from either part of their heritage." A tense silence fell over the grove. Then, unexpectedly, the elder smiled. "And that is precisely why you were chosen," she said, approval warming her voice. "Not to abandon one path for another, but to unite them. To heal the ancient divide between traditional wisdom and modern medicine." The sound of distant drums began, as if the ancestors themselves approved of this declaration. "But first, you must survive," the elder warned. "Babatune has placed a bounty on both your heads. Even now, his followers search for you." As if summoned by her words, shouts erupted from the direction of the village. Torches illuminated the forest edge, moving quickly toward the grove. "They have found us," the elder said calmly. "We have prepared for this moment." What happened next would become legend in 7 villages. The healers formed a circle around Amora and Kofi, each drinking from a small vial they carried. Within moments, they collapsed to the ground, appearing lifeless. Confused and horrified, Amora knelt to check their pulses, her medical training taking over. "They are alive," she whispered in amazement. "But their pulses are so faint." "The death mimicry brew," Kofi explained, recognition dawning. "My mother wrote of this. They appear dead to create a distraction." The elder healer's eyes fluttered, her voice barely audible as she gave her final instructions. Take the underground passage beneath the sacred tree. Follow it to the river. A boat awaits with everything you need. With her last conscious breath, she added, remember, your child belongs not to you alone, but to a legacy greater than any single life. The searchers burst into the clearing just as Amora and Kofi disappeared into the hidden passage. What they found was a scene of apparent ritual suicide, 7 of the region's most respected healers lying motionless around a ceremonial fire. Underground, Amora and Kofi navigated the narrow tunnel by touch alone, the distant sounds of confusion and horror fading behind them. The passage opened at the riverbank where, as promised, a small boat was tethered. As they pushed off into the current, Kofi took Amora's hand. The question in his eyes needed no words. Was she certain about this? Were they right to leave behind everything she had worked for? Amora's smile in the darkness held no regret. I'm taking with me everything that matters, she assured him. My knowledge. My love for healing. You. And our child. She placed his hand on her belly, where new life grew strong. Besides, this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. For 3 months, they traveled downriver, stopping at villages where secret symbols painted on riverside rocks indicated safe harbor with healers who were part of the ancient network. Amora's pregnancy progressed, her connection to her unborn child growing stronger each day. But Barbatoon's reach was long. News traveled of a strange illness affecting only pregnant women in every village they had passed through. An illness that disappeared as mysteriously as it had arrived once Amora and Kofi moved on. Kofi's face darkened with understanding. His poisoning innocent women, he realized with horror, hoping you'll reveal yourself by trying to heal them. The weight of responsibility settled on Amora's shoulders. Then we have no choice, she said, her healer's oath burning in her heart. I cannot let others suffer for our safety. At the next village, instead of passing through quietly, Amora announced herself as a nurse and offered her services. That night, as she tended to 3 suffering women, the village was surrounded by Barbatoon's followers. Trapped and with nowhere to run, Amora and Kofi prepared to face their pursuer. But what Barbatoon didn't know was that this particular village held special significance. It was here that the river people and mountain folk had first formed their alliance 10 generations ago. As Barbatoon entered the healing hut where Amora worked, he found not a frightened woman, but a circle of villagers standing protectively around her. Stand aside, he commanded, his voice cold with authority. This matter is between healers, not farmers and fishermen. The village elder stood tall, unintimidated. When a healer uses their gift to harm, the elder replied, they answer to all people. Barbatoon laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. You don't understand what's at stake, he said, looking past them to where Amora stood. The child she carries will destroy traditions we've preserved for centuries. Power that belongs to the few will be claimed by many. Amora stepped forward, one hand protectively over her swollen belly. And that terrifies you, doesn't it? She challenged. Not that healing will be destroyed, but that you won't control it anymore. Barbatoon moved with unexpected speed for a man his age, pulling a small blade from his robes. But before he could reach Amora, Kofi stepped between them. What happened next occurred so quickly that witnesses would later disagree on the details. The blade caught the firelight. There was a scuffle. Kofi fell back against Amora, blood blooming across his shirt. But then something extraordinary happened. As Amora caught Kofi's falling body, a light seemed to emanate from her hands, visible to everyone present. Where she touched Kofi's wound, the bleeding slowed, then stopped altogether. Barbatoon stood frozen, his face a mask of terror. It's too late, he whispered, voice breaking. The prophecy has already begun. Before anyone could stop him, Barbatoon raised the blade to his own throat. But Amora's voice cut through the tension like a knife. No, she commanded, power resonating in that single word. There has been enough death. Her voice became almost hypnotic as she continued. Put down the blade, Barbatoon. Your knowledge is still valuable. Your gift can still serve rather than dominate. Something in her voice, a power none had witnessed before, made Barbatoon's hand tremble. The blade clattered to the floor. What have you done to me? He whispered, broken and bewildered. Amora stood tall, one hand on her belly, the other extended toward Barbatoon. Nothing, she answered calmly. I've simply awakened to what I truly am. as my child has awakened within me. With quiet authority, she declared, the age of hoarding healing is over. The time of shared knowledge has come. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter. Babatunde, his will mysteriously broken by Amora's newfound power, revealed the locations of his hidden caches of ancient healing texts. Texts that had been stolen from various lineages to consolidate knowledge, and thus power, in his hands alone. 6 months later, Amora gave birth not to one child, but to twins, a boy and a girl. Children born with eyes that reflected starlight even in complete darkness. Children who, within hours of their birth, could touch a wounded creature and ease its suffering. On the night of their naming ceremony, as the entire village gathered to celebrate the twins, a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the firelight. Nana Ekua, the old healer who had first warned them, now stood with the 7 healers who had faked their deaths to ensure Amora and Kofi's escape. Nana Ekua's eyes widened at the sight of the twins. The prophecy spoke of 1 child, not 2, she said in wonder. The ancestors have blessed us doubly. Amora looked up from her children, question in her eyes. What does this mean? The old woman's smile was full of hope and promise. It means the healing will spread faster than any of us imagined. 1 to walk the path of traditional wisdom, 1 to transform modern medicine. Together, they will bridge worlds we thought forever separated. As the twins grew, their gifts manifested in different but complementary ways. The boy, named after Kofi's father, showed an uncanny ability to identify healing plants and communicate with the natural world. The girl, named after Amora's grandmother, displayed an intuitive understanding of the human body that surpassed many trained physicians. Amora and Kofi established a healing center that drew people from hundreds of miles away, a place where traditional medicine and modern medical practice worked in harmony rather than opposition. And Babatunde? His punishment was perhaps the most fitting of all. His powers diminished but not eliminated, he was charged with documenting all the healing knowledge he had hoarded, creating the most comprehensive medical text the continent had ever known. 5 years after the twins' birth, as the healing center flourished and its reputation spread, Amora found Kofi standing under the stars, his expression troubled. What weighs on your mind, beloved? She asked, joining him in the night air. Kofi turned to her, moonlight revealing the worry in his eyes. I've been translating my mother's final journals, he admitted. There was more to the prophecy than we were told. His voice dropped to a whisper that seemed to merge with the night breeze. The twins are only the beginning. Their children, and their children's children, will continue to unite divided healing traditions. But with each generation, those who profit from people's suffering will rise against them. Amora considered this, her face serene despite the warning. Then with each generation, people will need to choose, to support healing that liberates or healing that controls. Do you ever regret the path we've taken? Kofi asked suddenly. The dangers our children will face. Amora looked toward the hut where their twins slept peacefully, their small bodies giving off a faint luminescence visible only to their parents' eyes. When I first came to you in that hospital room, she replied thoughtfully, I was fulfilling what I thought was your last wish. I never imagined I was actually fulfilling my own destiny. She took his hand, strength flowing between them like a current. Our children will face challenges, yes. But they will never face them alone. That is the true power of healing, it connects rather than divides. As dawn broke over the healing center, patients already gathering at its gates, Amora and Kofi stood together on the threshold between night and day, between one chapter and the next in a story that would continue long after their lifetimes. For this is the nature of true healing, it does not end with one person or one generation. It flows like a river, gathering strength from every tributary, finding its way around obstacles, sometimes disappearing underground only to resurface stronger than before. And somewhere in the world today, the descendants of those twins still walk among us. Some wearing the white coats of modern medicine, others keeping alive traditional practices, but all carrying within them the light that first awakened when a nurse chose to believe a condemned man, a light that reminds us all that healing is not just about curing disease, but about restoring wholeness to a broken world. But there is something you should know, dear listener. Something I have kept from you until this moment. The journals Kofi translated contained one final prophecy, a warning so disturbing that Amora and Kofi decided to hide it from everyone, even their beloved twins. The ancient text spoke of a time, 7 generations after the twins' birth, when a great division would threaten the world. Not just a division between healing traditions, but between humanity itself. A time when a dark force would arise, one that would use both science and spirituality as weapons rather than tools for healing. And in that time of greatest need, when humanity stands at the brink of self-destruction, the divided descendants of the twins would need to find each other again, strangers by birth but connected by blood and purpose. That time is now. The dark force gathers strength even as I speak these words to you. And somewhere in this world, the twin healers' descendants are alive, unaware of their heritage, unaware of their power, unaware that the fate of healing itself rests in their hands. How will they recognize each other? How will they awaken to their purpose? How will they stand against forces that would use suffering as a means to power? Perhaps the answer lies with you. For why else would this story find its way to you, if not because you are meant to play a part in what comes next? For the greatest power of healing is not in roots or remedies, tablets or technologies, but in the human heart that refuses to turn away from another's pain. And such a heart might be closer than you think. It might even be your own. The story of healing isn't over. It's just beginning. And maybe, just maybe, you were meant to carry it forward. Subscribe now and walk with us on this journey. Because healing belongs to all of us. And the next chapter starts with you.